Sky Striker, Sword Soul, and Scareclaw said, you know what? We're ramping it back up for the new format. Don't make 34% of you guys have not smashed the crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can climb up to 110,000. We are, like I said, about 300 away at this point to getting there. So your side deck regional breakdown here for the remote is actually kind of interesting. You know, if you told me to like evaluate this between last format and last, I'd be like, there is no difference. It all kind of looks the same. So we had triple Ishizu tier in the top cut here, which, you know what? Okay, it's not a 7-deck representation. It's not, you know, big scary like even crazier numbers. No, it's just kind of cruise control. It's not bad. We also had 2 Sprite in top cut. I'm not upsetty spaghetti about that. But where the Flaunderies at though? Flaunder's supposed to be, you know, dragging them around in here with triple dimensional barrier being another really scary deck in the format. But I don't see any of it here. Where's Flunder at, guys? Can you find me the Flaunderies player? I don't know. We also had, in terms of your rogue here, we had 1 Sword Soul. Now, I've seen a lot of interesting Sword Soul takes out of this weekend. It's kind of like this deck just woke back up from a time capsule and was like, I'm back. What did I miss, guys? After it was AFK. You know, you carried the team the whole time, but, you know, Sword Soul finally coming back here. We also had Scareclaw. Now, I feel like a crazy lunatic out here, because every time I bring up, like, Scareclaw has been, like, one of these regional decks out here, but he just turns their heads like, nope. So many tier lists that I've seen just toss Scareclaw at the bottom. Like, this is now officially 3 to 4 tops for the deck, and for a regional level, and people are like, nope, it's a bad deck. I'm like, okay. And then we also had 1 Sky Striker. Everybody out here, you know, being like, oh my god, Sky Striker players on the Copium right now, they're not going to top again. Right there. They did it. They got 4th place, I will have you know. Very impressive, to say the least. All right, we're going to pass on over to some of these top deck lists, so you can be like, oh, you know, like, oh, you know, this doesn't count. I mean, regional data is one thing in the game. It is a slightly higher tier level of play versus locals. It's not a YCS, but, you know, intermediate gameplay is still going to be something that players will focus on, and it will give people the chance to see, you know, a mid-range level of gameplay. So this is why I like talking about stuff like this. Also, shout out to everybody that helped me gather this info, and for all of you that did, you know, pitch in for this. It's absolutely amazing. So, Sky Striker, by the way, kind of interesting to say the least. Oh no, winning the regional was a Shizu tier. Oh boy, I'm not surprised about that, to say the least here. We are focusing on standard 1 Agito, which is fine. If you look at like this deck between the current format and last, not really much has changed. Still 2 Scream is fine. Still most of the Ishizu package. You're still going to be focusing on this package relatively largely. Saronir's has kind of moved in. Your option trees are you can cut back on a Drillsworm, play a second Saronir if you're really worried about it, and try like a 2-3-2 split, but it doesn't come up that much. Main deck is pretty standardized here. Now, there is this. We are playing Zombie World. This Zombie World kind of returning back to the format has been kind of interesting, to say the least. I'm going to kind of be curious to see if this will continue to stick around, or if this is just kind of a very early trend. And then, of course, we have 2 more Saronir down here, so we'll be able to bring in 9 Bysteals if we really need to. Okay, next up here is second place. This was our Scareclaw variant. Now, we've talked about, you know, the power of Scareclaw, and one thing that's been helping this deck out being, you know, a generalized power monster is the fact that this card right here just gives you access to your negate package. It's going to help facilitate some extra monsters on the board. It's going to be like the linchpin that keeps it all together, per se. Like the adventure package, every one of these builds I've seen has been really good. Also, I mean, to be fair, a lot of people don't know what Mr. Tryhard does down here. As soon as you start dropping this on the field, after you start claiming up some huge ladders, your opponent's like, what's going on here? Like, it's surprise factor, and honestly, just the good packages that gives Scareclaw the chance to kind of continue on in the metagame is very, very nice, to say the least. So I'm happy to continue to see this doing its job. Also, non-fusion area is quite hilarious down here. If they don't have an out for it, you just kind of win the game, right? Next up is our sprite list. Now, to be honest with you, how much of Sprite do you actually expect to change as, you know, you kind of go through these formats? You see the different takes and evolutions that this deck does. The answer is it doesn't really change. The most interesting things that you're going to see are going to be, is Double Cross in the mainer side? Do they choose not to play it? And then is Gamma Burst in the mainer side? And then your other question is how many Sprite Smashers are we focusing on? To be honest with you, that's the most exciting stuff. I want to give this deck a lot more credit in terms of innovation, but most of the Sprite list have been pretty cruise control as of late, and I think we're going to continue to kind of see that trend, because if it's not broken, why fix it at the end of the day? The deck has been figured out. There's no real change really needed for it, so keep it up. Next up here is our Sky Striker list. Hello, Fenrir. One note to include in this list, they did mention the fact that they wanted to have another generic Link 2 in the offshoot that they did open up with multiple cards here. And I think that that's kind of interesting. Also, the fact that they focused on Unicorn here. Honestly, getting that extra deck rip, taking away key resources from the opponent is kind of interesting. I also see, you know, we're still focusing on linkage here, and then of course we're going for these guys. These guys being your pressure points for the opponent is going to be really, really good. And of course, you know, getting to search for Birth is really good. You're actually focusing on the value generated from these monsters. So, you know what? Once again, it's kind of nice to see the different levels and things here and innovation that people really brought to the table for Sky Striker. So good stuff. Next up is we're doing this. I saw this trend come out of the OCG a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure it's been floating around for a little while, but that's when I became aware of it, was the fact that we can actually play Grapha in our Shizu deck. And you're like, oh boy. Just, it gets even better, doesn't it? Yeah, the fact that King of the Swamp gives you the fusion sub for this, and you know, you can go search for actual polymerization in the deck is absolutely hilarious. Technically, you can play Guardian Chimera in here, and you can generate some other, like, crazy value that you shouldn't be able to generate in this deck, and, you know, detour the opponent even more. Also, you're seeing Zombie World here yet again. I love the fact that this card has just reared its ugly head in this format. It's like, hey guys, you miss me? I'm back. So definitely one of the more interesting innovations out here is Grapha seeing play in this deck. All right. Next up, oh look, more Shizu tier. All right. So overall, what can we really expect here for this to change? You don't. All right, triple Druis, triple Magnuma, or one Saronir is fine. You're of course bringing in 2 more copies of this, and then we're playing Mistaken Arrest until this card resolves, until the end of your next turn after this card resolves. Another player can add cards from their deck to their hands, except by drawing them. Is that a lingering floodgate effect that many Yu-Gi-Oh players dislike at the current era? Yeah, it is. This is going to punish your opponent in some really unfair ways. And I think actually Tier getting the chance to play this is very, very interesting as an option tree. So good stuff. Once again, not really too much in here. I mean, we're not playing a Guido, which I think is fine. And we're only playing 1 Kelbeck anyway, so if it just kind of comes up, I think that that's fine at the end of the day. And next up was Sword Soul. Now, a note from this Sword Soul player, they talked about how even though they went like second and lost like a majority of their dice rolls, that the Tenyi cards actually pressured their opponents when they played against a Shizu, which is actually kind of an interesting thing to note here. The pressure that these cards generate when, you know, a Shizu starts like a mass mill here is actually kind of interesting. So I guess that's kind of something to take note of here, is just the pressure that these cards can give you in this matchup is very, very interesting. Mystic Mine aside for the slowdown for the format, we're still relying on the Bysteel package as well. I mean, for what you want to do with this deck, seeing also, you know, Mapora here seeing play is actually kind of good. Honestly, outside of that, that is your breakdown for the side deck regional. What an interesting time to be out here. Let me tell you what. So, what do you guys think about the regional breakdown? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. And I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out.
patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.